I attempted a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald using only Psychic types. This extremely potent offensive typing can wipe the floor with most Pokemon in a one-on-one battle where they outspeed, but with most of the available Psychic types in Hoenn, like Gardevoir and Alakazam, they're glass cannons. It's gonna be a tough time getting through without suffering some casualties. Can we make it through unscathed? Or how many Pokemon will fall at the hands of our opponents? Well, let's find out. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below and guess whether I'll win or not on the first attempt. And to give a little curveball, which Pokemon do you think is going to be the MVP of this run? Let's begin. First things first, we've got to get our first encounter. Unfortunately, none of the starters in Hoenn evolve into a Psychic type, so after choosing Mudkip for an HM user, we take out May's Trico and head over to Route 102 to find the 4% encounter in Ralts. This only has Growl to start out with, and is going to be a pain in the fanny to level up until it gets Confusion, but it is doable. Thankfully, it starts out at level 4, so we don't have to worry about grinding it up with Struggle at level 2, but it's not like Ralts' attack stat is very high in the first place. I start out with just using all of my Growl points on Route 101, making sure to do so within 5 encounters and potions after each one of them. I'm basically investing all of my money into this since if I heal at the Pokemon Center, it's basically game over since I'll have to drain 40 points of Growl again. From here we can just go back to Route 102 and fight other Ralts since they can't attack me, plus they yield special attack EVs, so it's a win-win for me. It only takes 5 Ralts to get my own to level 6, finally learning Confusion and allowing me to actually do something, though this is still not enough. See, there's exactly 2 required trainers before having to fight Roxanne. And both of them have a Poochyena, a dark type that's immune to Confusion. The only other move I can get before Roxanne's level cap of 15 is Double Team, so I'm gonna have to train up on Zigzagoon on Route 101 to get enough speed EVs to ensure that I outspeed the Poochyenas, while also giving myself plenty of a level difference to use Struggle to KO it. It's definitely an irritating prospect, but by pushing all the way up to the level cap of 15 and dodging every single optional trainer, we're good to fight the Team Aqua Grunt and KO with 2 struggles, leaving just Roxanne. A held Oranberry makes this fight a little bit more possible, but not really by much. Sadly, I'm gonna have to use some double team strats to ensure we don't absolutely get bum blasted by Rock Tomb. I'm able to set up a few double teams against her first Geodude, eventually taking a Rock Tomb and Rock Throw that brings Ralts to literally 1 HP before the Oranberry kicks in, but with 4 double teams up, I'm good to fire off a few Confusions to KO both of her Geodudes, draining her potions in the process as Nosepass comes in third. The first Confusion hits as Nosepass misses with the attempt on Rock Tomb, but sadly we've hit the end of the road on attempt number 1 as the second attempt that Nosepass tries Rock Tomb, it does KO. Well then, we might need some defense EV investment, but I'm gonna try giving it more special attack instead to see if I can just one-shot those Geodudes instead of taking damage. While I EV train the new Ralts though, I just want to give a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Hello pupils, it's me, Professor Death Knight, coming to you from Teleria University, legally not a real school, with a math problem. If you create a hit mobile game in 2019, how many champions will you have 4 years later?
It's gotta be at least 7.
The answer is over 700. Champion Pop Quiz. Who's one of the hottest champions in Teleria right now?
Oh, I know this one. It's Uber Death Knight, right?
Well, Ultimate Death Knight, of course.
Guess I didn't cram hard enough last night.
The greatest, smartest, kindest... Sorry, I know it's so annoying when teachers talk about their kids. Anyways, not only does Raid Shadow Legends have tons of rad champions, it also has 15 amazing factions. So Faction Pop Quiz, can you name the latest faction?
Finally, a question I can answer. The Sylvan Peacekeepers.
Well, if you said the elusive Sylvan Watchers, you're right.
Partial credit will have to do.
Some of the new champion arrivals are just so cool. We've had Wood Elves, Fey creatures, draconic priests, badass dwarven warriors, fearsome skinwalkers. Oh, so cool.
Right. So anyway, what's it like seeing all of these new champions? You've got to at least be slightly nervous about a potential replacement, right?
Nervous? Who said anything about being nervous? It certainly wasn't me. Oh, it was you? Yes, I'm nervous. What if they introduce some guy named Mega Death Knight?
Did somebody say Megadeth?
Oh, crap. That's it for today, class. Your homework is to download Raid. Just kidding, I know you've already done that, so no homework. Except there will be a test of valor, so study up! But you can use your phones, cause it's a mobile game. Alright, class dismissed.
The brand new web series Raid Call of the Arbiter is in full effect now. To celebrate this epic limited series, Raid's adding some of the new characters from Call of the Arbiter as champions you can play as in-game. Awesome, right? The first one is Artak, the mighty orc warlord that's available to everyone for free. All you have to do is log into Raid for 7 days between now and July 24th. If you've seen episode 1 of Call of the Arbiter, you'll definitely want this guy, and if you haven't seen it yet, well, what are you waiting for? Go check it out, and then remember to log in for 7 days to get Artak. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses. We are talking an epic champion in Talia from the Sacred Order faction, and a bunch of other useful things. Once you're in and crushing your enemies, come find me under the name Chaotic Meat, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. So just hit my link in the description or the QR code on screen, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Welcome back. Now, as I said before, we need to EV train a new Ralts, hence Miracula the Ralts here. I think this should be good enough to take down Roxanne, but if not, we might just have to keep bashing our heads into the double team wall until it finally works. I'm actually going straight for Confusion this attempt here to do massive damage as Rock Tomb connects for 13 damage while lowering my speed. Thankfully though, I have enough speed EVs to continue to outspeed as Roxanne goes for a potion, letting me KO with 2 more as the second Geodude comes in. The same thing occurs here as we just hit Confusion to nearly KO as Geodude goes for Rock Tomb, getting the speed drop again and triggering my Oran Berry as a potion is used next turn, allowing for a critical Confusion to follow up and KO, leaving just Nose Pass. I'm in better HP range, but not necessarily good for Rock Tomb, though for some reason Roxanne's AI just starts going ballistic and using Harden and Block for 3 turns in a row, allowing for 2 regular Confusions and a critical, while also getting the Confusion status effect. The only attack that Nose Pass is able to hit me with here is a tackle, allowing for a 4th and final Confusion to seal the deal and the win. I mean, I'll take it? I mean, I guess we didn't need to use double team strats after all, just the AI to be completely and utterly unhinged. Now that we're past the level cap for Roxanne, we're clear to head out into Route 16 to grab Abra. Thankfully, we have a great ball to toss at it for our one chance, and we do get it, though if we didn't, we still had another opportunity to grab it in Granite Cave before our fight with Brawley. Now, if you're curious as to why we didn't grab this before Roxanne, well, it was purely because Abra doesn't get any attacking moves at all, and can't evolve mid-battle, so even if it hits level 16 off of the first Geodude, it's not like we have Kadabra all of a sudden. I do make sure to deposit it though to avoid a double battle, then head back to Route 102 for some nice hardy EV training. We've got to do some more struggle training just so that we can get Abra up to level 16 and evolve into Kadabra, learning Confusion while also getting Ralts to level 18. With that, we can clear out Rust Turf Tunnel, struggling with Kadabra against this Aquagrunt's Poochyena in order to retrieve Pico, then head on over to Dewford Town to deliver the letter to Steven, and take on our second gym battle against Brawley. Now, as expected, the Psychic types whop the floor with Brawley, wringing his brawny brutes dry of their HP. What, did you expect me to say something different? I lead off with Ralts, KOing Machop in one shot with Confusion as Metatite ends up being the follow-up. Confusion does over half as he uses Bulk Up, going for Focus Punch on the next attack, but since we attacked, we get the KO before we even have the chance to see the failure message appear. Last but not least is Makihita, but damn, it's gone after a critical Confusion seals its fate, winning us the battle in 4 short turns of the Apocalypse. However, once the battle's over, Ralts starts evolving into Kirlia. But not yet. See, if we hold off for just 1 level, Ralts will gain access to Calm Mind at level 21, being an amazing setup move for this early in the game, and heck, for the entire game. But before we head to Slateport, we're not done yet with EVs. See, we're still missing a lot of speed, so it's a hop and a skip over to level 22 for the team, as the speed EVs are now maxed out, as well as another hop and skip back to Rustboro City to grab the XP share. This means I can just spam Kadabra's Psybeam and now not risk the weaker Kirlia for the time being. Alright, now we can go to Slateport. Speaking of which, in the Oceanic Museum, I'm finally given a TM that lets my Psychic types hit Dark types in the form of Thief. Sure, it's not very effective and it's only 40 power, but it's at least boostable by Calm Mind due to the Dark typing being special in Gen 3, so not much of a struggle is put up by the grunts. Even May's not much of a struggle as I take the EXP share off of Kadabra, setting up some Calm Minds against her lead Wingull and just firing off confusion after confusion, surviving her second Pokemon Grovile's usage of Pursuit twice in order to KO and leave just Slugma, in which we do be slugging with confusion to pick up the easy win. I knew it was wise to hold off for that one single level just for Calm Mind. The level cap for this area is 24, so I don't want to go above that, hence why I've removed the XP share, and good timing too, since my Pokemon are both level 24 after clearing out the Mauville City Gym of its trainers and getting the pathway to Watson. Despite his Magneton being able to resist the Psychic-type moves that I have, I'm not actually too scared of this fight, mostly due to Cherry Berries and Synchronize being my best friends for this battle. Watson leads off Voltorb against my Kadabra, in which we outspeed and nail a Psybeam for the easy one-shot as Electrike comes in second, going down to the same attack. Third is Magneton, and here's where things start going a little weird. So Psybeam only does a little over a third, allowing for Magneton to follow up with a Thunder Wave that paralyzes Kadabra, but here's where the combo comes in. This both paralyzes Magneton thanks to Synchronize and heals Kadabra with the Cherry Berry, giving us a chance to basically KO for free if Magneton is fully paralyzed for the turn. Sure, it's a 25% chance, but it does work out perfectly, as Magneton is paralyzed and the third Psybeam gets the KO, leaving just Manectric after Kadabra learns Recover over Confusion. Psybeam is not really the choice here since we'll do over half and just trigger Manectric's Citrus Berry. But now that we don't have the Cherry Berry on us anymore, we can use Thief to steal the Citrus Berry, doing around a third as Thunder Wave paralyzes Kadabra, once again triggering Synchronize and paralyzing Manectric as Psychic just gets a critical hit and KOs Manectric to end the fight, allowing me to retain the Citrus Berry for a later use, and that is actually really sick. 30 HP healing this early in the game is really useful when these frail Pokemon only have 60 HP apiece, and therefore can just heal back to full once they go below half. So with Watson done and dusted, I figured it was about time to bring Mudkip out of the box. Why, you may ask? Well, 1 for HMs, and 2 to hold the EXP share so that I can use Kadabra and Kirlia for double the amount of time I would normally. This lets me go around and fight the optional trainers I skipped to get some more money for coins needed to get those busted TMs from the game corner, like Psychic, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam. Sure, they're kind of expensive right now, but I'm not too worried about it. I've got plenty of room before Flannery's level cap, and we'll be getting multiple encounters before that fight anyway if anything goes wrong. Speak of the devil, and they shall appear, as the trek all the way from Route 111, just north of Mauville, all the way to Meteor Falls is pretty much uneventful, until we hit our next encounter inside of the falls in Solrock. Not the best Pokemon in the world, but a Levitate user is a ground-type pivot, along with that rock typing is pretty much some diversity that we much need. I mean, we need something that's not gonna die immediately. This is the last encounter, though, before we have to take down Maxie on top of Mount Chimney, but don't worry, since we're closing in on 2 more encounters in rapid succession before Flannery straight after. Firstly, Maxie's starting out with Mightyena, so I'm going with Kirlia. This is entirely because we have Shockwave on Kirlia, and I'd much rather not have to deal with Sand Attack being a total mean poopy head move, bypassing the accuracy and using that Citrus Berry we retrieved off of Watson's Manectric for good use, healing Kirlia nearly back to full as 4 Shockwaves through a Super Potion are enough to take out Mightyena, leading to Zubat. For some reason, I don't just stay in here, instead swapping to Kadabra to take a wing attack for a little under half, setting up Reflect while taking a second one, and using Recover to nearly heal to full HP. I'm in this cycle with Zubat until it finally gives up on attacking and uses Supersonic, landing and snapping up my held Persimberry as Kadabra's finally at full HP and ready to KO with Psybeam, leaving just Camerupt. Now this is why we swapped and wanted to set up Reflect, but of course Reflect elapses on the turn Camerupt comes out, so I'm stuck swapping to Solrock on a predicted magnitude to hopefully get things taken care of. Thankfully, I'm correct on that prediction, taking no damage and going for Secret Power for nearly half as Ember barely does anything to Solrock, letting me hit 1 more Secret Power which gets the Confusion status, KOing Camerupt with the self-inflicted damage like a moron to win the battle. See, this is why we should ban Maxie, ladies and gentlemen, he's just too good! Dumb Yu-Gi-Oh! Jokes aside, moving onwards to the Jagged Pass, we're finally able to get our 4th encounter in Spoink, a decent one, but yet another pure Psychic type to add to the squad, as is the Wynot egg in Lava Ridge Town, which evolves into Wobbuffet at level 15. Sure, Wobbuffet is a really interesting Pokemon with a cool gimmick that can come up against a few battles, but I'm really bad at using my brain and I'd rather click Calm Mind 6 times instead. And with everybody leveled up to the level cap of 29, we're pretty much ready to take on Flannery. She leads off with Numel as I go with Curlia, thinking for a bit before deciding on Calm Mind since this thing really shouldn't be able to do much damage. And it's true, with both Takedown and Magnitude 7 only doing about a third of my HP each, with a Sunny Day mixed in there, allowing for 3 Calm Minds. My Oranberry brings me back up over 30 HP, and then we're clear to fire off Psychic to KO Numel, Slugma, Gamerupt, and Torkoal all in sequence to win the fight. I mean, there's not really much else to say other than, yeah, I mean, I clicked Calm Mind a lot. That's kind of my gimmick. Awesome! Now with half of the gym badges in hand, we're clear to head back to Petalburg for our 5th gym battle, though there is a little bit to do on Route 111, is what I would say if I had intelligence. Turns out past me didn't decide to get a ball toy yet. I guess we'll see how long it takes to decide to get that, but we're fine. We have Soul Rock, it has Levitate. Ball toy has also gotten Levitate in this game, so it's not like I need it, but it would be useful. Anyway, the gym is easily handled by Wobbuffet of all things, mostly spamming counter against the plentiful amount of normal type moves, makes it pretty easy, so I'm not risking any of my other Pokemon before getting to level 31 and fighting Norman. And in case it wasn't obvious how much I love clicking Calm Mind, it's literally the same sequence of moves here. 3 Calm Minds against his lead Spinda, followed by 4 uses of Psychic to KO it, Vigoroth, Slacking, and Linoon all in sequence to end the fight in short order. We're in Steamroll territory, friendos. Let's see if I can keep up this deathless attempt. With Surf now usable outside of battle, we're clear to finally start heading to the east side of Hoenn, though I do still have a lot of optional trainers to take out on the west side. Marshtomp is still perfectly fine sitting in the party and obtaining all that extra experience with the EXP share while I soak up this free money, eventually getting both Spoink to evolve into Grumpig and Marshtomp evolving into Swampert. Yeah, it's over every other thing in my team because of how much it's absorbing. But by the time I'm done with all of this, I realize I have to complain about Wobbuffet for a little bit. See, this thing is impossible to train by itself without insane amounts of healing items, and while I'm trying to conserve my money for more TMs for my newer party members, seeing as Psychic is infinitely obtainable from the game corner as are Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower, this f***er just gulps down Hyper Potions or whatever other healing item I have like it's going out of style. Thankfully, I don't succumb to purchasing any healing items, but losing like half of Wobbuffet's HP against a single frickin' Meryl or an equally dumb Pokemon is really irritating, and I just want to slap the EXP share on it even though I know that's the wrong thing to do. With all that taken care of though, I'm clear to head on through Route 119, taking out the Weather Institute and lose Soul Rock immediately to a random crit crunch from Shelly's Carvanha. So much for a deathless run, I suppose. Really wish I had a way to fight off dark types without immediately losing all my HP. Well, without Gardevoir's Gen 6 and beyond fairy typing, that does make it pretty difficult. But I probably should have just led with Gardevoir instead. Anyway, thankfully I still have Baltoy in the back for a Levitate pivot once we actually go catch it, but losing one of my relatively scarce encounters already is pretty rough. No time to mourn though, as May is fast approaching right after the Institute, leading off Slugma this time as I go with Gardevoir. I mean, yeah, it's just Calm Mind time, baby. Thankfully, Slugma barely does any damage with Rock Throw after being let off of Ember due to my massive special defense increases, getting 4 of them up as Slugma sets up 2 Amnesias. This is perfect since I still KO at neutral since we're both +4 special attack and special defense respectively, taking it out with Psychic as well as Grovyle and Lombre on the follow-up to win the fight with barely a scratch. Nothing left to do other than to get the Devon Scope and head into the Fortree City Gym where our 6th badge awaits. Gardevoir is still the perfect ticket here as well, just instead of Psychic, it's Thunderbolt's time to shine, having replaced Shockwave once we got it from New Mauville. Winona opens up with Swablu as I go for Gardevoir's Calm Mind, setting it up only once since Swablu has Perish Song and it'll likely go for it once it sees me setting up, and I'm sure I'm only gonna get away with one. It one-shots on the follow-up after taking Aerial Ace, letting me sweep through Tropius with Psychic, Pelipper with Thunderbolt after Protect delays the inevitable, and Skarmory with Thunderbolt to leave just Altaria. Psychic isn't quite enough to get the one-shot here at +1 special attack, so she sets up Dragon Dance, but because the AI is dumb, she goes for another one despite knowing that it won't survive a second Psychic, letting Gardevoir get the free, easy victory, having only taken a single attack across 5 Pokemon. The only thing I could really complain about with this fight is that I probably should have set up a second Calm Mind on Tropius, since it probably would have used that turn to set up Sunny Day. However, its ability was Chlorophyll, and I wasn't exactly keen on getting hit with a potential critical hit Solar Beam, which would have absolutely killed Gardevoir, but I digress. I think I got through it just fine, though I probably could have planned it a little better. Routes 120 and 121 don't provide any sort of challenge, just a bunch of free money for TMs in the Lily Cove department store. However, we do have our last rival battle in front of said store, so we should take her down real quick. I'd say that Calm Mind would be the best play, and if you thought differently, then you'd be sorely mistaken. Her lead is Tropius, and it can't really do much to me other than Magical Leaf and Stomp, so I just use 2 Calm Minds, then fire off 3 Psychics on Tropius, Grovyle, and Slugma, then Thunderbolt on Pelipper after it wastes time with Protect. Nothing to worry about, just another easy battle that really didn't deserve to be recognized, but I'm trying to be more kind to the game despite complaining a lot, especially about Wobbuffet. More useless battles are on the way towards Moss Deep with Mount Pyre, the skip trainers on Route 119 for extra money, and the Magma hideout on the Jagged Pass, ending with our second battle against Maxie. Second verse goes much better than the first, since his lead Mightyena is an easy KO with a single Calm Mind, being enough of a boost to KO with Thunderbolt following a Scary Face and Swagger, recovering from the confusion by a held Persimberry before said KO occurred. +1 is still plenty enough for Crobat, so I stay in, but take a Confuse Ray, and unfortunately, Gardevoir hits himself while at +2 attack from that Swagger. However, something I haven't mentioned so far yet in this run is that Gardevoir has the Modest nature, as well as Synchronize. So I've been getting Modest Pokemon throughout this entire run, and about half my team are all Modest, making the special attacking Pokemon hit so much better, and making it so Gardevoir doesn't even get KO'd by a critical Air Cutter after hitting itself with +2 attack. Yeah, I know, long-winded point, but the critical does end up connecting before Psychic manages to plow through after Confusion wears off, KOing and leaving just Camerupt. And since this thing is slower than a sloth taking a shit, we're good to fire off another Psychic to KO and win the fight. Couldn't have done it any better even if I had tried. With Maxie defeated though, I finally can go out of my way back to Route 111 to capture Baltoy since we are in dire need of a tank. Grumpig can only do so much, and Wobbuffet is basically useless unless I'm going against a Pokemon with entirely a physical or a special moveset. Speaking of encounters, I figured it was about time to finally drop Swampert, the HM EXP sponge, out of the party for the 2% Chimecho up on the top of Mount Pyre. Despite my previous team of Gardevoir, Kadabra, Grumpig, and Wobbuffet being pretty damn adept at KOing, with the exception of Wobbuffet, just about anything in my way up to this point, I'd rather diversify my options as much as possible and ensure that I only risk Kadabra very rarely so that I can ensure it gets to the level 40 mark and get Alakazam. I do allow trade evolutions in my runs, by the way, and the 4 Kanto trade mons I've always associated with evolving at level 40 because of that, so I just can't have them super early. After all, how entertaining would this video have been if I had gotten a level 16 Alakazam before Brawley? Oh, I clicked Calm Mind, so I guess maybe not that much less. Anyway, Chimecho is a disaster to capture, taking almost every single Paul I had in my inventory, but I did successfully capture it, as I did with Girafarig over in the Safari Zone, instead of it running away. It was a toss-up on whether I'd grab Natu or Girafarig here, but I figured the latter was going to give me a much-needed ghost immunity for pivoting and ensuring survival, because that is going to be instrumental in making it through Phoebe once we get to the Elite Four. Plus, with a bunch of money in hand, I'm able to optimize their movesets with multiple TMs for Psychic, plus giving coverage moves like Shadow Ball and Ice Beam to Claydol. Now there's one more hideout for me to take care of with Team Aqua before finally opening the way to Moss Deep City, and this is nowhere near as dangerous as the Weather Institute killing off Solrock. While there still are a boatload of dark types, and they are still a pain in my bum since I don't have anything super effective for them, while Gardevoir is my only good out to them with Thunderbolt, I'm still trying to use Kadabra and Thief like I was all the way back in my first visit to Slateport City, mixing it with Recover to ensure I stay alive against those special attacks and get through. But this is entirely because I'm being anal about keeping my experience and levels as equal as possible amongst my entire party. One day, I'll figure out to let that obsession go, but this is not that day. With Mets, Sharpedo, and Golbat defeated thanks to Gardevoir, we're good to head into the large surfing area of Hoenn for a bunch of optional trainers, as well as the inevitable fight against Tate and Liza. 4 Pokemon on their side against my 6 should put me at the advantage as they lead with Xatu and Claydol, and myself with Gardevoir and the newly evolved Alakazam. Gardevoir is perfectly content firing off Calm Mind to set up as Alakazam pulls Xatu into the red with a lucky Hidden Power Ice, putting it into Hyper Potion range as Xatu sets up a Calm Mind of its own, and Claydol goes for Earthquake, nearly doing a half to Gardevoir and bringing Alakazam down to just a little over red HP. Not a big deal though, since all I was looking for was that single Calm Mind to start sweeping. Seeing a Hyper Potion out of Tate and Liza on Xatu to heal to full as I blast off Hidden Power Water with Gardevoir on Claydol to nearly KO as Alakazam recovers just out of Earthquake's KO range. With Claydol also now in Hyper Potion range and ready to drain the last of the two that they have, I'm good to fire off Thunderbolt with Gardevoir into Xatu for the KO and recover with Alakazam as Solrock enters third. Despite Gardevoir being at low HP, the AI is guaranteed to fire off Sunny Day, at least based on what I was able to learn about it. So I'm clear to double target Claydol with Hidden Power Ice and Water to KO and get Lunatone out last, leaving me to deal with the Rock Duo. Gardevoir has done its job at this point, being swapped out for Claydol as Alakazam recovers back to full HP in preparation for a potential Solrock Flamethrower, but instead that goes into the Claydol slot, resisting and barely doing any damage, all while Lunatone goes for a Calm Mind. I should probably get that thing off the field ASAP, so I'm going for a double target Thief and Shadow Ball for 2 turns in a row, seeing a Solar Beam do about a third to Alakazam as Lunatone wastes its only remaining turn with a second Calm Mind, being KO'd with a second pair of double targeting Thief and Shadow Ball regardless of the held Citrus Berry, leaving this to be a 2-on-1 affair. I figured Solrock would eventually start firing Solar Beam into Claydol for the super effective damage at some point in this battle, but for some reason, the AI is just not seeing it, using Flamethrower into the Claydol slot again despite resisting, and Solar Beam into Alakazam as a pair of Thief and Shadow Ball leave it hanging on by 1 HP, KOing next turn with Thief following the Citrus Berry activation to finally win this arduous battle. And I figured this was going to be the most difficult battle of the entire game since most of the psychic types here are glass cannons, but we managed to make it out unscathed despite some risks. After all, great reward sometimes requires great risk. With the hardest battle of the game out of the way, I think we're coming up on the potential second hardest battle of the game, and that's because of 2 things. Firstly, it's another double battle, and secondly, it's a multi-battle so we don't have control of both of our Pokemon, meaning that we can potentially be dogpiled 2-on-1 without much of a chance of fighting back. This is against Maxie and Tabitha with myself alongside Steven over in the Moss Deep Space Center, and I'm only allowed to bring in 3 of my 6 Pokemon. I chose Gardevoir, Alakazam, and Claydol since that at least gives me a ground pivot for Camerupt if needed, as well as a tank for anything else, and if either Gardevoir or Alakazam accidentally somehow die, the other can pick up the slack with massive damage. Maxie and Tabitha are leading off with Mightyena and Camerupt as I go with Gardevoir, and Steven leads Metang. So my initial plan here is to isolate and destroy Tabitha's team before moving on to Maxie's, firstly targeting Camerupt with a Hidden Power Water, which takes it out in one shot. Out comes Golbat to replace it as Mightyena uses Swagger on Metang, getting it to hit itself. Not a problem, as Gardevoir is still holding a Person Berry for it, so we can fire off Psychic into Golbat, KOing and leaving just Mightyena on Tabitha's side. Maxie's Mightyena gets the chance to use Scary Face that turn on Gardevoir, but I don't expect them to double target Gardevoir with Swagger, so I should be fine to KO Tabitha's Mightyena with Thunderbolt, and sure enough, that does end up working, KOing after healing off one of the uses of Swagger, as Metal Claw from Metang does well over half to Maxie's Mightyena. Now that it's a 2-on-1 affair, he actually swaps Camerupt in, nullifying my usage of Thunderbolt and resisting Metang's Metal Claw. Not that it matters since I still outspeed at -2, hitting HP Water to KO as Mightyena comes back in again, finally getting a Swagger that connects into Gardevoir's side. Hilariously though, it doesn't matter at all since Metang outspeeds next turn to hit with Metal Claw, KOing and leaving Gardevoir to not hit itself with Confusion as Crobat enters last, KOing with Thunderbolt to win the fight. 0 damage on my end, a little bit on Steven's, but you know, he sucks. So much for this being a hard fight. With that, there's just Seafloor Cavern to take care of, and the box legendaries, but the only important fight in this area is our final bout against Archie. His lead is, of course, a Mightyena, makes sense considering all of the other team fights in the game, and I figured I'd kick off with a single Calm Mind from Gardevoir and see if he'll go for a Scary Face. Sure enough, he does, and there's no way I stay in here since his other 2 Pokemon are Crobat and Sharpedo, 2 notoriously fast things that need to be outsped to be safely dealt with, and Gardevoir cannot do that all while at -2 speed. I swapped to Claydol to take a swagger, then started laying in with Dig, dodging the confusion hit on the first dig, which did over half, then shifting to Ice Beam as Archie pulls out a trick from Blaine's bag and uses a super potion. Unfortunately, Claydol is unable to finish the job after this due to a takedown critical into hitting itself from swagger, leaving me to swap into Grumpig. After another takedown does nearly half to Grumpig, I set up Confuse Ray in the attempt to bring Gardevoir back in safely, then hopefully finish the battle, and sure enough, this works. 2 self-hits from Confusion managed to KO Mightyena as Gardevoir is swapped in on the second one, giving me the freedom to hit Crobat with Psychic and Sharpedo with Thunderbolt, outspeeding both and KOing in one shot each to win the fight. A little wonky, but I got through it. Definitely was overthinking how to sweep this fight when the only thing I couldn't one-shot with Gardevoir was Mightyena, and even then I probably could have just blasted it with Thunderbolt. 2 Rayquaza Steel Shots later to each Kyogre and Groudon, and we're clear to fight Juan for the last gym badge of Hoenn. So this fight is also a little bit wonky. Love Disc has access to a pesky little move called Attract, which, unfortunately, it is the opposite gender of Gardevoir, meaning I'm going to need to ensure that I get around the potential 50% infatuation while still pulling off a sweep, and here's where the TM for Calm Mind from Tate and Liza comes in. See, I've had Baton Pass and Agility on Girafarig for a while now, so pairing Calm Mind on there gives me plenty enough speed to get around potential Swift Swim threats, particularly for this fight since there is one on his team, and the ability to set up with Calm Mind despite Gardevoir being a male and therefore unable to do so without Attract heavily getting in the way. Once my setup with Girafarig is complete, even through Confusion, I'm ready to go through Baton Pass, bringing my +4 special attack, special defense, and speed into Gardevoir, then firing off Thunderbolt to KO Love Disc and Crawdon, Psychic to Whiscash, Thunderbolt to Celio, and back to Psychic for Kingdra to end the fight twice as fast as the setup took. It is kind of funny how I'll sit there for 5 minutes just clicking the setup buttons while my opponent's like, do something, and then when I eventually say okay, it ends in 30 seconds. And that's just how I expected a Water-type gym to go. But Girafarig being able to get around that nonsense was definitely a luck of the draw thing. Attract is really the most annoying status ailment in the entirety of the Pokemon franchise, and I don't think anybody likes it. Now, despite all the odds stacked against us in the early game and with those double battles, there's only half a dozen major battles standing between me and the championship. So of course, we've got to kick that off with Wally. Then immediately kill Wally because his Pokemon are so far below the level cap of the Elite Four that you literally have no reason to worry about him unless you choose to do level caps for like sub-boss fights outside of gym leaders in the last Elite Four members Ace. Maybe I should try that in the future. Could be a little bit more interesting, but I digress. Psychic KOs Altaria, Delcatty, Magneton, and Roselia, leaving just Gardevoir to take 2 Thieves from Alakazam while only using Future Sight, giving me a no-damage battle. After buying some healing items at the end of this thing, I'm ready to walk into the league, no other prep needed, though we are going to be bombarded by 2 vicious typings back-to-back in the start here. But would it really be a shock to you to learn that Sydney is actually easy? Yeah, the level difference really helps here. However, I do make some mistakes from the get-go though, like assuming the AI was at all intelligent and expecting his lead Mightyena to attack, instead of using Sand Attack, forcing me to go on offensive after only using a single Calm Mind, firing off Thunderbolt next turn to KO and lead into Shiftry. I also have a bit of a brain fart here, thinking that Gardevoir is the one with Hidden Power Ice and not Alakazam, doing a little less than half to Shiftry as he goes for Double Team, but I'm still able to hit a Thunderbolt to KO next turn as Cacturne comes out third. I miss a Thunderbolt for the first time as Cotton Spore lands and lowers my speed, so I'm ready to swap into Alakazam. I'm not worried about either Needle Arm or Feint Attack here, though I think a missed Cotton Spore is probably the best thing that could have happened, making sure that Alakazam still outspeeds and KOs with a Hidden Power Ice. Fourth out is Crawdon, so I swap back into Gardevoir on a Swords Dance, only to KO it with a Thunderbolt, leaving just Absol to basically do the same thing, but instead going down to 2 Thunderbolts after its Citrus Berry heals it out of full restore range. Alright, 1 down, 4 to go, but the next one is Phoebe, and she is actually a little bit of a joke. Thanks to Girafarig, I can't get hit by her lead Dusclops, so all it does is keep using Protect over and over again, letting me set up Calm Mind a few times and blast out Psychic twice to KO both it and a Bayonet before Sableye comes out third. Well, unfortunately, Girafarig only has a single offensive move slot, so I just commit into increasing my stats with Calm Mind and Agility before passing over to Claydol of all things, KOing Sableye with the 3rd times the Charm Ice Beam, leading to Bayonet number 2 going down to Psychic, as did Dusclops number 2 after 2 Psychics. Alright, sick, no more type disadvantage to worry about. I should be safe from here on out. Glacia is actually pretty easy to cover, as I'm able to just use Girafarig and Calm Mind as her lead Celio sets up Hail, then goes for Body Slam. Sadly, this first Body Slam gets the paralysis, so I have to go straight for Baton Pass after the Cherry Berry heals it off at +2. Though I think these should be plenty enough with Alakazam because of its massive special attack. Body Slam doesn't get the paralysis here, so we're clear to fire off Psychic as Hail continues to rain down, KOing Celio, Glalie number 2, Celio number 2, and Wall Rain to win the fight. I still don't understand why she can't have, like, Piloswine, Delibird, Dugong, Lapras, something that isn't just the two evolutionary families, but I digress. The last of the league is Drake, and oddly enough, by far the easiest. See, Shelgon is the dumbest motherfucker on the face of the planet. You want to know how many times he went for Protect in a row? Literally 5 times. Only shifting to Rock Tomb after seeing Girafarig go for 3 Calm Minds and 2 Agilities, setting up a 4th Calm Mind before that first Rock Tomb even connects. From here, I'm +4 in the special stats and +3 in speed, so I can just Baton Pass out into Gardevoir for the sweep to get him to level 57, using Psychic to KO Shelgon after another Protect, then doing the same to Flygon, Salamence, Altaria, and Kingdra in sequence to win the fight. Just gotta pull it off one more time, and this one's gonna be a little bit more tricky. See, Wallace's lead is Wailord with Double Edge, Rain Dance, Water Spout, and Blizzard. The only move I'm not worried about is Blizzard, of course, but Double Edge can possibly do massive damage to Girafarig, as can Water Spout, especially since I'm trying to set up, not do damage, and therefore not lower its 150 base power at full HP. Thankfully, upon calculation, I can actually survive 2 non-crit double edges pretty easily with Girafarig, allowing for me to get 2 Calm Minds up, assuming we don't get hit with those crits. Upon entering the battle, I just go for straight executing that plan. Outspeeding and setting up Calm Mind as double edge is the move of choice rather than Water Spout, doing the second one as the second double edge brings Girafarig down to just 20 HP, allowing for me to Baton Pass out into Gardevoir and straight into a critical hit double edge. Thankfully, that's just 1 turn too late, my friend. You've already lost the battle. Despite Gardevoir only having 32 HP remaining, I'm able to outspeed the entire team and one-shot them. Wailord with Thunderbolt, Tentacruel with Psychic, Ludicolo with Psychic, Whiscash with Psychic, Gyarados with Thunderbolt, and last but not least, his Ace Milotic with Thunderbolt, winning the fight without dropping a single Pokemon in the league. Damn you, Shelly, and your random critical hit crunch. I would have had this entire run deathless if it weren't for your nonsense. Either way, I'm glad to have finally finished the last remaining Monotype Hardcore Nuzlocke that nobody else has made a video for Pokemon Emerald that wasn't straight up impossible. Then again, the only impossible type in this game was Steel, and I already tried doing a video on that and proved it was impossible, so, that just takes care of all the types. You get the point. Fun fact, the footage for this video was actually just sitting on my hard drive for about 4 months. I completely forgot about it, then I found it again and decided to make it into a video. Nowadays, I stream all my challenges over on Twitch, so if you want to catch one of those, definitely make sure to head on over there, twitch.tv/ChaoticMeatballTV, since I'm probably streaming right now if you're catching this video the day it goes live. Otherwise, make sure to drop a follow over there as well as a subscribe here so you don't miss out on future challenges coming to the channel. Anyway, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.